I think so. I saw a photo when he was, the D coordinator for Bill Belichick.
Oh, yeah.
And someone made a really good point. They were like, he looks older.
No, I know.
Back then than he does
He hasn't
now.
aged a day. I
No.
actually, off the top of my head, I don't know how old he is, but I think he's like in his mid to late 60s, right? Has he approached 70 yet?
He has to be pretty darn close.
He looks damn good.
Looks really good. Okay.
He's got that leathery skin.
He's 68. Oh.
He's a good-looking
His
68.
birthday's in 16 days.
Really?
I think we're going to have to give him a nice birthday shout-out for his 69th birthday.
Can't imagine why you'd want to do that, but
Why not? I think he would. I think he needs a good little birthday
so.
wish. He definitely needs a good
probably,
little birthday
yeah,
wish.
from the boys at the locker room.
Boys at the locker room.
For sure.
Welcome back to the locker room. I'm your host, Justin Reed, alongside Andrew Tenney. Spokane's only consistently running sports talk radio show. We are live here Thursday, a little bit earlier than usual. We got bumped up to the extra early.
The A block.
The A block. At least we'll find out if that ends up to be true. But we have a good show on tap for you here. I think we're going to open up with a nice message from our awesome sponsor, who we love to just talk about as much as we can.
That was the most straightforward one that you've done so far, and I appreciate it. You know what's coming. We're talking about Lucky Bird. Lucky Bird wants you guys to know that they're a Spokane-based e-commerce and digital marketing company dedicated to helping local companies scale in the online world of e-commerce and digital marketing. So visit luckybrands.com, luckybirdbrands.com to have a down-to-earth, no-pressure conversation about your digital marketing and e-commerce strategies today.
I don't have anything fancy to say about Lucky Bird this week.
That's okay. You get the week off.
But mainly because they're just they speak for themselves.
They do. They really do.
You don't really have to be too fancy about it. They're just that good at what they do. So definitely reach out to them for all of your digital marketing needs, and they'll definitely take care of you. I think.
They will.
They definitely will.
100%.
100%. All right, let's move into some death threats. I think that's a good way to start the show.
Nice soft segue.
Nice soft segue into the world of death threats in sports. Warranted or not, I think is the question we need to ask each other here. But the interesting fact is Danny Green sucks. Danny Green was terrible for the Lakers.
Hey, back-to-back champ, man.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, somehow he snaked his way into that.
Don't hit the player, hit the game.
He was just bombing up threes, and they all were missing. What was this, game
5?
Game 5?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And he missed a very important three-pointer. And it came out the next day. It's like Danny Green's received death threats. Danny Green, his family, and his wife. And it's like, I could have told you that. That happens every single time an athlete messes up on a big stage. And every single time an athlete gets a death threat, everybody's like, oh my God, why would anybody ever do this? And everyone's shocked and surprised. My take for the day is I don't think the death threats matter. I think that fans and media give too much weight to death threats. Because when it was the last time ever an athlete has been harmed or hurt because of a death threat?
In the United States, I don't know if it's ever happened. However, South America, that's a different story.
If somebody is watching the show in South America, you can have a gripe about this. But nobody from South America is watching this because they have something else. They have their own locker room down there, for sure.
I'm sure.
Down there in Buenos Aires. But I just think, the death threats that matters, like we were kind of talking about this before the show, is like Steve Bartman. Mm-hmm. Steve Bartman, when he caught that foul ball, or prevented, I guess, the Cubs from catching it, that's warranted. That's a death threat that should not be done and one that actually deserves recognition. But athletes receiving death threats don't matter to me. I don't care. They deserve them.
Whoa.
They don't.
They deserve them, really?
If they suck that bad.
Wow. Okay.
If they suck so bad, or if they screw up so poorly on a large stage, what do you expect? Like, I'm not saying that they deserve to go through whatever mental, especially their family, whatever mental issues they go through with dealing with a death threat. But like, it's coming. Danny Green put up that shot, and when that thing missed, he's like, "Oh, my family's gonna be threatened this tomorrow." It's coming. Like, I mean, they have, because it happens all the time. You go down just a regular. You can see LeBron having an awesome dunk. You go down to Facebook comments, someone's like, "LeBron, go to hell." Mm-hmm. Like, I hope you die. And everybody is like, just like, LOL, like, that was so funny. But then if LeBron does something bad, now it's a big deal.
Right. I know what you're saying. Yeah, I'll push back a little bit, and I wouldn't say that I think they are deserved by anybody. However, these are not new. They've existed in sports forever. They currently exist in sports, and they will always continue to exist in sports. especially in the day and age of social media, because people are protected and empowered behind a screen because they know that, they're ultimately faceless and nothing's really going to come of them sending, a nasty tweet or a direct message or whatever. It's really not that big of a deal. Like, it happens all the time. Is it a great thing? Do I endorse it? No. Have I ever been one to do that? Absolutely not. But people are crazy. But the thing is, like, people, I think you and I would include ourselves in this group. We kind of hinge our happiness a lot of times on things that we have absolutely no control over. And so people that are not exactly in the greatest states of mind that also fall into this category, like you and I, when something happens that takes their little happiness that they've been looking forward to and that they put on the shoulders of athletes for their favorite sports team, this oftentimes is the result. And again, I don't think it's right. I would not say it's warranted or deserved. However, that is why it's happening, and always has been happening, will continue to happen.
Do you have any moment in your sports fandom where you could have seen yourself send a death threat, either to be your own team or an opposing team? Because I have one for sure.
No, I was pretty stoked. I don't know, maybe like 7 or 8 years ago, I think when Jared Cook was with the Rams. I think he got knocked out of a game, and for whatever reason, I just hated Jared Cook. I thought he was super overrated. He doesn't have hands.
He is overrated.
And he's still in the league, though, which is incredible.
Yeah.
And had sort of a revival with New Orleans. But anyway, no. I
Okay, I have Malcolm Butler would be one for me.
Ooh, okay.
I think.
Okay, but can you put that on Malcolm Butler, though, or can you put that on Pete and
No,
Daryl?
it'd be Malcolm Butler.
Okay,
yeah,
of course.
No, I definitely would have been.
Don't
caught
take any
into his
responsibility
DMs.
for your own team.
No,
your own
no,
loyalties.
not at all. And then in the heyday of the Harbaugh era at the San Francisco, I am pretty sure the entire team would have been warranted a DM or two from me, for sure. I think.
I mean, that rivalry was awesome. That was like the peak of it, and I respected that team a lot. Their defense was awesome. I mean, they were basically a mirror image of Seattle.
It's like, copycat league, and they took all of our scraps.
Sure.
And
Let's
then
go
we
with
beat
that.
them consistently.
I mean, they only went to the NFC Championship like 2 times consecutively before we did, but sure.
Yeah, but they lost.
They sure did.
So did we. But we won one, so that's all that matters. So off of the death threats here, which I will stand behind for now until someone tells me otherwise.
I did. It's not good.
Well, nah, you still sided with me. Also, would you ever create a burner account? That kind of goes along with death threats. Have you ever like created one or had anything?
No, I'm not that petty. I don't really care
because
enough.
there have been.
If I'm gonna say something, I'm gonna say it with my face.
Yeah, but there have been so many times where I've wanted to say something, and like because my Twitter page is attached to the spokesman, like I know that I can't. But like,
do you know that? Yeah.
I mean, or same with
aware?
my Facebook. Like I really just want to like lay into some people sometimes, but you're an adult. We're an adult. We're adults, so you can't quite do that. But I've never had a burner, but I think it would be kind of fun.
I sound a little bit more like an adult than you do. I don't know.
For
I'm
sure.
not out here.
Oh
kind
no,
of
I'm
ranting
definitely a
it
little
and
bit of a child when it comes to sports. But that's just because I'm so passionate.
There you
I
go.
tell myself.
There you go.
So I got a notification last night. The MLB playoffs is still going on, and the Rays are up 3-1. I have no idea where that came from because we just talked about the series before the divisional round last week, and then all of a sudden they're on Game 5 today at 2.
They're wasting no time. I actually appreciate that to know that they've already played 4 games and they're already 1 game ahead of the NLCS.
If I cared about this playoffs, like I would be stoked. Like this must be so much fun to watch. But thank God. I know we talked about the whole, maybe hoping the Astros win and then play the Dodgers, but the Braves are up 2-1. So I think it's probably good Tampa wins. Plus, I hope the Dodgers win because then my pick would go through. But looks like your pick for the playoffs is doing just fine.
Yeah, I don't think for the MLB it's the Rays getting into the World Series again is exactly what they want.
No, not at all. They're definitely hoping for the Astros.
Because even the bad publicity and all the hate and all the anger that surrounds the Astros, that's good. That's what you want.
That's good for TV. Yeah, that's there's any publicity is good publicity, and if there's a scandal, a cheating scandal, MLB's like, nah. Make
NBD.
baseball fun again. Yeah, it's the same thing with like performance-enhancing drugs. Do they really care? Because
if everybody's on them, like why not?
There is no way that a guy like Nelson Cruz isn't using something. That guy, and I love Nelson Cruz, and I am a huge fan of him, but he is getting better with age.
Yeah, which is insane.
He's a nice barrel-aged whiskey.
Very nice.
Like, he's just getting nicer and nicer the longer he stays in the league. And that's, I don't know. There has to, like, Ichiro was on steroids to help him run faster, but I guess they were legal. Like, what's the difference between a legal and an illegal steroid?
I don't. Why are you asking me?
I have no idea. I don't know.
I really don't know.
I think baseball. I don't like full on like Barry Bonds. That's all hit 70 homers all the time. But I think a little more.
Is it whether they can be monetized by the federal government? Is that pretty much the?
I think the feds would have to be involved some way. You know what? We're gonna get involved. We're gonna start our own PED business.
Okay, let's go.
And then we're just gonna get rich on selling drugs to athletes.
Yep.
You in?
Can't
Sam,
wait for that excerpt to come out.
Sam's in. Perfect. I know Vinny wouldn't be in, our normal producer, because that's because he's soft. But we have an awesome producer in the studio today, as always. The last time Sam was in the studio was our most viewed show ever.
It was, yeah.
So
8K.
I think there's a reason for that.
There's a correlation for sure. And Sam wears shoes.
Sam wears shoes, which definitely helps. But also, the Dodgers put up 11 runs in the first inning, the most ever in a playoff game in one single inning. I think in the first inning. But I got that notification, and it said, like, Dodgers score 11. I'm like, nice. Like, they scored 11. Then it said, in first inning. I'm like,
whoa. All
right. You said something about Barstool, like.
Oh, yeah, just a bunch of people betting the under for that game. Yeah.
Whoops.
That lost in the first inning. So
Portnoy's probably sitting there like, you can't win them all. You can't win them all.
Well, he just wakes up the next day, starts day trading, gets right back at it.
And then he wins again. Yeah. Yep. No matter what, he's going to win.
Yep.
El Presidente will win in the end. So I don't know what the actual viewerships have been for the rounds for baseball so far, the conference championships. But if we're looking at the viewership ratings across all sports have been down, and it's really, there's a lot of excuses why that's the case. But there's been actually some worrying signs in terms of viewership, and that it happens all the time. But I think a lot of people are in that mode, like, they want to get really upset about something, and so they're like, look at all these sports that aren't playing, and it's because of me or whatever. But we're going to take a look here at some of the viewership ratings across the league, because some of them are interesting. NFL, all of these, the Thursday night, Sunday night games aren't doing very good. Even the Seahawks-Vikings game was down 17% from last season, which is not where you want to be.
I did see a stat, though, that said that 72% of televisions that were on across the nation on Sunday night were watching that Sunday night football game between Minnesota and Seattle.
So people just don't have their TVs on.
I guess not.
They're saving energy. They really care. They really care about saving power. It's really nice of people.
We are a conscious generation, yeah.
The 2020 Stanley Cup playoffs, which we followed so closely, was down 38% from last year. The final round of the U.S. Open was down 55% and was the least watched final round of the tournament ever. The Preakness was down 56%. Tennessee, Georgia on last Saturday was the highest rated, most watched game of the season.
I was actually watching that.
But
I was bored.
It was still down 21% from last year, from that same game in Week 6. Game 1 of the ALCS drew 2.7 million viewers, 2.07 million viewers. Game 2 was 1.88. The two least watched games ever in the conference series. Those are down 66%. Do you have any rationale as to why that might be?
I don't know if I exactly want to try to pick apart all the reasons, because I think it's such a nebulous conversation. There are so many things that go into it, and I don't think you have to be a genius to have an idea of what some of those factors are. I do kind of want to touch on the comparison of the Sunday night football game in Seattle versus Game 6 and the finals clinching game of the NBA Finals. In that, what was it? The Sunday night football game had almost double the viewers.
Yeah, what was that?
Over double?
I had that somewhere.
But anyway, the point that I wanted to get to on that is just sometimes I feel like, especially over the last few years, and especially after the Golden State Warriors have revolutionized the way that basketball is played and the relevance of basketball, obviously globally, it's really taken off and it's really ascended. And obviously in the United States as well, sometimes I think we lose sight of the fact that football is truly king and probably always will be, even though the NBA has made massive strides in catching up, especially compared to where they were in their image as an association back like in the early 2000s when I started watching. So I think it's a good reminder just how dominant the sport of football is, especially within the United States, even, like I said, with all of the ground that the NBA has made up and, really been instilled in the younger generations as the cool league.
Yeah.
I mean, it helps a lot with like facial recognition, all the players and everything. The thing with football is you know numbers, teams, or at least for the casual fans, because it doesn't help that they're wearing helmets and everything. It does not help with player recognition and branding in that regard. But so that's one of the biggest things that the NBA has going for it. But yeah, just that discrepancy between the Sunday night football game and then Game 6 of the NBA Finals is just a nice little reminder. Like, let's not get too carried away about the NBA overtaking the NFL anytime soon.
Let's not forget about the true king of North America, which is definitely football. But one exception, which isn't that surprising based off of just how the trends are going, the WNBA Finals, Seattle Storm's championship-clinching win in Game 3 was up 34% over last year's Game 3 and up 27% over the championship game in 2018. The finals between Seattle and the Aces averaged 440,000 viewers for the three-game series, up 15% over past WNBA finals. The interesting fact about that is that's 440,000 people, which if we look like across a bunch, like all the other sports, I mean, it's still very far down low, which I'm sure someone's going to look at that and find a reason to complain or blame white columnists like we talked about last week.
I'm sure. But, I mean, good for the WNBA that they,
awesome,
out of all the leagues, were the only one able to actually gain viewership based on last year.
Which is super interesting. And the one unfortunate fact, it's an election year. Everybody's really tied into politics. If we're looking at cable news, CNN averaged 2.59 viewers, up 172% from last season. MSNBC 2.75, up 38%, and Fox is at 4.42 million, up 63% from last year. So if we look at all of those numbers and combine them together, there's a lot of percentage points that are going to cable news in those primetime slots rather than sports, which in today's climate, with everything going on, it's not surprising at all. One thing that's really funny to me, and we kind of mentioned this before the show, is CNN. They're up 172%, but they're still like way at the bottom. And it's like, poor CNN. They were like the torchbearers for like cable news network, 24 hours a day, and now they're at the bottom. Poor CNN. But we are going to jump into a review of the NBA season as a whole after LeBron James led the Lakers to their is that LA's what was
17th?
17th. Yeah.
However, I think it's only their 12th as the Los Angeles Lakers. The first 5 were in Minneapolis. However, now they're tied overall as a franchise with the Boston Celtics at 17. However, the Celtics don't have an asterisk next to theirs because they won all theirs in Boston. But
Lakers is 12 for me because it's the exact same thing. Like the Thunder don't have a championship.
Right, exactly.
Seattle does, but the Thunder don't.
Yep. But anyway, that is a classic Laker fandom to ride on the coattails of the successes of one Minneapolis Lakers franchise. But I don't know. I kind of have a lot of different things that I want to get into. Do you want to start with just the NBA season review in general, like dating back to the regular season? Do you want to start with breaking down some of the storylines in the finals and what came after?
I'm here for the ride-along.
You're here for the ride-along.
I'm here for the ride-along.
Okay, so the biggest thing going into the 2019-2020 season, the most exciting thing was that for the first time in 5 or 6 years, basically since the Warriors won that first championship in 2015, there was a legitimate amount of parity within the league. AD obviously getting traded over to the Lakers. Obviously, they were going to be one of the favorites, one of the juggernauts with LeBron and AD. That was inevitable. Kawhi signing with the Clippers, and then them making that what looks now not like such a great trade for Paul George and giving up 35 first-round picks to the Oklahoma City Thunder. So you had the Battle of LA that was going to be a huge storyline, and really was for the majority of the season. Obviously did not end up panning out once it got to the bubble because the Denver Nuggets had something to say about that, and the Clippers they were frauds, and they crumbled. And then, you had in the East, nobody thought that Toronto was going to be able to continue their success the way that they were after Kawhi left and decided to sign with the Clippers, and that was a huge storyline all season. Nick Nurse and the coaching job that he did, and the defense that they were able to play night in and night out, and just their depth, and really a really impressive job staying relevant, and more than relevant. I mean, for the most part of the season, they were the second best team in the East. Obviously, you had the Milwaukee Bucks, which is a perennial regular season team at this point. Doesn't exactly translate into playoff success, or at least has yet to. And Giannis winning his second consecutive MVP as well as Defensive Player of the Year. You had Boston and the ascension of Jason Tatum, especially in the second half of the year right before the season came to a halt. That was really cool to see him. I think now, by a lot of people, he's probably considered a top 10 guy. We'll see going into next year if he's able to continue to build on that and everything that he did in this past season. And you have the Houston Rockets, of course, and then they make the trade for Russell Westbrook. And Russell Westbrook comes out, and it's like, man, he's broken, he's washed, he's awful. And then, James Harden was really carrying that team the first part of the year. And then James Harden's play started to fall off, and then Westbrook revived himself, and it was like, oh my God, this is how you unlock Westbrook. You send the other four guys, spread them out on the court, let him drive to the basket, let him do his stuff, and it was like, oh my God, he's awesome. And then he got to the bubble, and he was kind of a wreck and everything, but he had the coronavirus, he also had an injury. So there were a lot of really good, intriguing storylines consistently throughout the regular season, and that was also the case when they restarted in the bubble. And I mean, everybody's going to remember 2020, just in general, the year as a whole, for so many reasons. And that's the same case as just the NBA season, if you look at that specifically. And there was so much going on. There were a lot of very fun and intriguing storylines throughout. And honestly, it was an awesome season. I know as a fan of the NBA, it's been one of my favorite seasons that I've been able to watch. And for my Celtics as well, I gotta say, it was nice to watch a team that was not led or crippled or toxified by Kyrie Irving. Can't wait to have him back in the league and just derailing the Nets' title chances.
He's such
next
a smart
year.
Guy.
He's so philanthropic. Oh my God!
I mean, his theory.
Philosophical. His
theory on the Earth's shape is just, it just opened my mind to the whole idea about a flat Earth.
He's one of those guys that talks in circles for like 30 minutes, and then you're like breaking down like the actual transcript and excerpt of what he actually said on paper, and you're like, you made no statement.
Mm-hmm.
You just talked in circles. Yeah, but anyway, so I thought it was an awesome season, and I think the NBA should be immensely proud of what they were able to do in the unprecedented of the pandemic and restarting and putting the bubble together from start to finish. They had 0 positive tests, and sometimes, in my opinion, the protocols seemed, especially once they got into it and everybody was established and stabilized within the bubble, some of the protocols seemed, like a little too much, maybe a little excessive or unnecessary. But when you look at the fact that they had 0 positives, you can't argue with that. And so it worked, and they did it. They did it right, and honestly, a massive achievement for the NBA.
It's because they had that snitch line, so everyone was scared to go out because they're like, who's going to call and be like, hey, look over there. There's Dwight Howard dancing with those strippers, like getting a lap dance there at the club down there in Orlando.
That's James Harden, actually.
And that is going to definitely be James Harden. Well, it's that big beard, I think, is just very enticing.
Right.
Definitely.
Obviously.
But no, I think that's true. I will give the NBA credit for that aspect. I think they were very... I think also open to discussions with everything that's going on in America right now. But I think they balanced that delicately, I think might be the right word. I think there were a few times where I think got a little out of hand, but I think overall, it obviously worked out. No positive tests. I saw something like Michael Silver.
You love that guy.
Him Michael Silver.
You love that guy.
God.
Adam, he's bald.
Silver, he's bald, and he's very bald. That guy's shiny up top there. But no, I think it was decent. I think for me, I don't even remember the regular season. I have no idea what even happened.
That sounds about right.
During at least the first part of the regular season. It wasn't until they got to the bubble where things actually started to make sense, and I remember, because it almost seems like it was an extended preseason before you got to the bubble. But no, I think it was a decent season overall in terms of the excitement. I think the series all played out really well for the NBA. I think, you mentioned some of them, the Nuggets coming back from 3-1 multiple times, and the upsets, and The Lakers, unfortunately, winning it just because I really don't like LeBron. I think we've made that point very clear on the show.
No, do you want to take another 5 minutes to talk about LeBron?
No, I won't. No, I won't. But he did mention that whole thing, like, respect my name now. And it's like, dude, nobody disrespects your play. It's because you're a douche. Like, that's the only thing that people don't like about you. And he is, and he totally is. And he's always surprised by it. He's always surprised, like, people don't like me. Like, I'm LeBron freaking James. Like, how could nobody like me? I'm the
and we're going
greatest
again.
to ever
Okay,
do
I'm
it.
curtailing this. Also, I would not say that douche is the right word that I would associate with LeBron. But
Too
another
late.
thing that the NBA should be proud of, and that maybe played out more than people thought it might, was the actual level of quality basketball and the intensity of the play on the court. We weren't exactly sure, among many question marks going into the bubble, whether that was going to be the case or not, because it's atmospherically different. The environment is obviously different without fans, without the energy, the external energy beyond just the play of the court and everything. But the basketball was really good. Everybody was dialed in. All the people that were there in person, the media members, the reporters, the writers, everything, they all were marveling at the level of play, and it was awesome, and it showed through. And even in that game 5 in the finals was freaking legendary. I didn't get to see it live, unfortunately.
What were you doing?
It doesn't matter, but yeah, no, I regret it.
It kind of matters.
I'm looking at my phone. I'm getting all the updates. My friends, all of 2 that watch sports, are texting me. They're like, "Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god," and I'm like, "Okay, sick. I'm missing one of the greatest games ever." But I mean, the fact that not having fans there did not take away from that level of intensity on the court and during the most pivotal matchups and games and positions in the playoffs. I mean, I think that's really incredible, and it's more than the NBA could have ever hoped for. Stop.
I'm still stuck on the fact that you missed Game 5 because I was at is it Tecate?
Sure.
The Mexican place down Northwest Boulevard, and there were a lot of fans. Like, surprisingly, there were a lot of people in the bar that they have there off to the side, like watching this game and like cheering and booing. And I was like, this was weird. And the guy who was working behind the bar, behind the counter, was running around, and he must have been like a favorite waiter, because he was literally walking around with tequila shots and like tequila, and he's literally yelling just tequila, and running around,
like,
and
yes,
people are
yes,
taking shots
see.
and like tossing money. I mean, it was kind of weird, but I was really into it because it was kind of fun, because I had never experienced a sporting event at a Mexican restaurant before, like that specifically.
Mm-hmm.
So I still can't believe that you missed Game 5. I'm not going to forget that. But no, I think
not either.
it was a sweet game, especially when Danny Green missed that open 3, and then Morris threw it out of bounds like 10 feet over one of the tallest guys in the league.
That was a sick pass.
I mean, I don't even know what he was. I don't know.
Neither did LeBron.
I was shocked that J.R. Smith only got 7 minutes.
Okay. So JR now has multiple rings. JaVale McGee has multiple rings. Deion Waiters has a ring, and Dwight Howard has a ring. So multiple members of the much maligned meme team are now NBA champions. And of course, it was always a possibility because they're playing with LeBron James, and then they acquired Anthony Davis. So
that
it's
helps.
in the cards.
It's a big help.
But man, and now Rajon Rondo is the only player in the history of the NBA to have won a championship with the Los Angeles Lakers as well as the Boston Celtics. So that's a unique little attribute. And resume topper for him. He's also only 33 years old, and he's been in the league since like 2006, I think, which is kind of crazy. Wow. We'll never know if the series would have played out any differently had Dragic not gotten hurt in the first game. He really would have helped take some of the playmaking off of Jimmy Butler's shoulders. He would have been able to get Bam a little bit more involved, because Bam was kind of a shell of himself. Obviously, he had the shoulder neck injury thing going on himself, but he wasn't getting that pick and roll action that absolutely devastated Boston in the Eastern Conference Finals. So we'll never know. Ultimately, I think the Lakers probably still would have pulled it off, but I think who knows? It could have been pushed to a 7th game.
And let's really not forget how incredible of a series Jimmy Butler had. I mean, he was an absolute monster the entire series for a guy who, in my eyes, now again, I'm not the biggest NBA fan, but in my eyes, hasn't really been a top 5 player like he was for Chicago. Like, I know last year, because he was with Minnesota?
No,
Or-
last year
or
he
2
was with
years ago.
Philadelphia. Yeah,
That's right, because he's been
he pushed his way out of Minnesota.
not surprisingly.
It wasn't the best move on him. I mean, ultimately,
It
it was a
wasn't,
good
yeah, it
move
ended
to
up
make,
working
but
out,
the
but
means by which he made the move
it was not great. I mean, because really though, like Jimmy Butler hasn't been that impressive. He hasn't been playing for. He hasn't been on a top franchise since Chicago, and so like you haven't really heard much about Jimmy Butler. It's always been the other guys, the guys who are playing for LA, or you're LeBron, and obviously no matter where you play, it's going to be a big time franchise. But I think it's good for his career because he seems like a good guy. I don't know,
I like him. I would want him in my corner any day. I love Jimmy Butler. I think it's awesome. It's hard to look around at other seasons and compare an individual playoff performance to Jimmy Butler's in just how much it's done for his standing in the league and for his stock as a player. Because, yeah, you're right. He hasn't really been in a position like he had or like he was this year to actually be relevant, to actually play for a title with a competent team, with teammates that he respects and that respect him. And he just did a lot. And I think he had 2 triple-doubles in the finals and for his first finals trip. And so I think that puts him tied with many guys at 4th in finals triple doubles after one trip. Like that's pretty awesome. And he had that legendary game 5, and I think it was game 3 that they won. That was the other one. I think that was his 40-point triple double. But no, he was awesome, and he was truly the embodiment of the Heat culture. And it was awesome to see. It's too bad that they couldn't get that thing to 7. I would have loved to see that. But that Miami team was a great story throughout the entirety of the bubble, and especially during their playoff run. Do you want to talk about LeBron? Is he the GOAT? He got his 4th chip, 4th finals MVP?
Nope.
Okay.
Not yet. He doesn't have as many as Michael.
Yeah, I know. He's just
I think that's a bit. I mean, because that was the discussion people were having. Like, is he the greatest of all time? And it's like, no, because of the fact that Jordan stayed with one franchise and they built around him his entire career. I know he left and played for Washington. That's a different Michael, but like his championships that he won were based around the fact that it was the team that he helped build consistently throughout his career, and he took that team, no matter what team it was, to the finals. And LeBron has to go chasing from team to team to team, from coach to coach to coach, from player to player to player, before he finds that right combination of guys and coaches and front office and everything for him to actually succeed. And so one thing, when I kind of go back to an actual discussion, he says, respect my name. And if we're looking at this from a purely like intellectual, not like the fact that I really don't like LeBron, the way he's had to get his championships are completely different than the way that Jordan did them. And I know Jordan asked for some high-end players, but did he really get them? Not really.
No,
like there was never anybody big that was brought in that really was a game changer for the Bulls.
I mean, they got Pippen, but at the time, I don't think, or sorry, not Pippen, Rodman. But at the time, that wasn't like a huge splash.
It was almost like he was just brought in to be the goon. Like, he wasn't expected to be the kind of player that they got.
Right.
And because he never was that kind of player that they got. He was always physical. He always could rebound. He always could defend. But he put up points and became a leader on a team that didn't really need more leadership. So no, that to me is where I just don't think so. I really don't believe. Now, is he in the discussion? For sure. That's why we're talking about it.
At worst, he's third best.
At
I would put him 2,
worst,
but
yeah,
at
the absolute worst, he's top 3. And so, I mean, because he's only won 4.
That's a lot, though.
It's a lot.
He's
it is
also
a lot.
carried
but
some
comparatively,
garbage teams to the finals, especially that 2007 Cavs team. But, I mean, so it's always going to be an impossible conversation and debate that will never have a definitive answer. We're always going to use different measures and metrics to judge Michael's career versus LeBron's. LeBron, people are going to make the case for him because of the longevity of his career. The amount of finals appearances, the level of play that he's still continuing to just beat the brakes off of teams at the age of 35 with really showing no signs of slowing up anytime soon. I mean, we'll see how his game ages too when, his body does start to fall off, but it's shown no signs of doing that so far. So we don't even know when that might be, if that's 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now. In really what he did that Jordan obviously was never able to do, and the era was just so different, but LeBron is really the pioneer for the player empowerment era in normalizing big superstar free agents moving in free agency. And it led to, obviously, Kevin Durant doing that in 2016. I mean, we can go down the list of
It's happened a lot.
massive players.
And,
right.
I think that's where some of his issues come into play, because there's a lot of originalists. There's a lot of old fans who are like, that's not how you do it, and who don't like him because of that reason. And I think that's fair because the idea of superstar teams makes the league very top-heavy. And I think the NBA was happy to see a little bit of parity within the bubble.
Oh, they absolutely were.
Because it's the first time that's happened in probably
Like, who would have guessed that the
6
Miami
years.
Heat were going to make it to the NBA Finals?
Nobody. And who would have guessed that the Nuggets would have made it to the conference championship?
Yeah.
I mean,
you
literally
would've been
on all sides,
Yeah.
leading up to the finals, there were so many times where you're like, this shouldn't have happened, and this normally wouldn't have happened. And I think a lot of it is because of the fact that it was a unique situation. There wasn't home court advantages anywhere, and so I think it was good for the NBA. I still think for LeBron, LeBron continues to like just wants like all the glory to be on him. Like, I am the greatest of all time. Respect my name. And unfortunately, that's what it happens every single time he wins. It always goes back to, is LeBron the greatest of all time? And it always gets clouded by the fact that he is the one who brought that conversation upon himself. And I think that's some of the issue.
I don't really think so, though.
You don't think so? Because that was
was
one of the
on
first things
him
he said,
before
though.
he even graduated high school. It was put on him from a very young age, and he's handled it better than anybody we could ask to handle it. Another thing that I kind of like, even though I would opt for Jordan being my personal greatest of all time, I do think it's cool that our age, our generation, the best player, the transcendent superstar that is LeBron James, keeps adding to his legacy.
That's true.
I think
I'll
it's
agree
cool.
with that.
I think just from a personal fanatic perspective, I think that's really cool to see him continue to add things to his resume so that we can continue to have this nonsensical debate between he and Jordan.
And it's the same thing with Brady. Like the fact
Exactly.
that Brady continues to add to his legacy, because we're living in this generation of, we have the arguably the best players of all time. And, Brady statistically
And Manning before he retired, too.
Oh, yeah. What's interesting is Brady is more of like the Michael Jordan in terms of the fact that he's won more championships, but he doesn't have the stats to back it up, because
Right.
Manning and Breeze have both done more statistically than Brady has and probably will. Just it depends on who retires first, I guess. But so I think that's one really kind of interesting fact. And then, but then we go back to, we've had this discussion before with baseball. Does baseball have that transcendent star? And they do in Mike Trout.
But he
it's
doesn't want
completely
his
different.
face on anything.
Exactly.
He doesn't
And
want the
so-
marketing.
And he doesn't have that discussion. And so I think if LeBron could get a little Mike Trout in him, like, I think that might help. That would help my
As if it'll ever go back
No,
the
it
other
won't.
direction. The genie's been out of the bottle for a long time.
too long. Definitely too long. But no, I think the NBA did a very good job with what they were doing. I was surprised because they were one of the first to announce kind of like what their plans were and like how they were going to do it.
Yep.
And they nailed it.
No, they really did. Hats off to the NBA. Honestly, they should be immensely proud of everything that they were able to pull off, and especially, tying in all of the social justice movements and being on the forefront of that. Obviously, that was a huge thing for the players, and one thing that they necessitized when collaborating, the restarting, coming back, and everything. So I thought the season was awesome, and I can't wait for next season, but it's probably going to be like February or March. We'll see. Nobody knows for sure.
One thing that I think they can't be thrilled about is just with like every league right now is their TV ratings were down a little bit, which is a surprise since obviously there were no fans able to go to games. So you'd expect, the 30,000, 60,000, however big your arena is, like you would expect those people to all tune in. And in fact, it was the opposite, and it almost seemed like they lost viewers. So that's probably the one gripe, because their TV deal might not be reflected as good as they thought it would be at the beginning of the year. But still
that
overall,
was not within their power, and that's
they,
happening across all the rest of the leagues in sports as well.
And they almost didn't even have a game at all, or a league at all. So I think that was an exciting part for them for sure. Anything else about the NBA? It was a fun season.
Yeah, no, it was really good. I think we put a bow on it very nicely.
Yeah, I think so. And we'll continue to talk about things that come forward throughout the next few months. Because, the draft is here in a few weeks, isn't it? Isn't it in October?
I think it's in November. I
Is
think
it
it's
November?
late November.
Maybe I just had the
Off the top of my head, I don't remember.
That sounds more right because of the fact that the season just ended, and if it was late October, that would be next week. So, we'll see. We'll see, because it's definitely going to be a quick turnaround for the next season. Because when does the NBA usually start?
NBA usually starts, I believe, mid-October.
Yeah, okay,
they start
so
preseason like late September,
yeah,
early
so
October.
they're all whacked out right now. All right, so we have another awesome sponsor here for you, who is so graceful. Last week was their first week sponsoring the show, but that is Lake City Hauling. Are you working on a remodeling or a cleanup project? Let Lake City Hauling help. Save yourself a stressful trip to the dump by letting them haul the small and big items for you. Lake City Hauling will remove it all. They'll take your trash, branches, waste, furniture, appliances, anything that you want in the garbage, they will take for you. They offer same-day pickup, and check out all of their awesome reviews on Google and see why customers continue to use Lake City Hauling for all of their hauling needs. They offer junk removal, dumpster rentals, and demolition in the Kootenai County and Spokane area. Give them a call at 208-425-4130 for any demolition or any cleanup projects you might have, and check out their website at lakecityhauling.com.
Very nicely done.
You have any hauling? Any junk you need hauled?
Not currently, however. I mean, it's fall, so I think that's hauling season, right?
It is. It's big.
One of the hauling season.
Yeah, it's perfect. It's prime hauling time. If especially with Prime Day being the last 2 days, there's gonna be a lot of boxes that people need to get rid of.
Crap! I did not cash in on that. Sam was like, Prime Day, Prime Day, Prime Day.
Loser. I got
screwed that up.
I got 3 things.
Ooh, what'd you get?
I got some new bedding, a duvet. Is that what they're called? Duvets? Sam, is that duvet? Yeah, I think it's like a blanket thing. I don't know. A comforter, something.
That's something to be excited about for sure.
I got a and then I got a Vitamix.
Nice.
It was half off. I got a Vitamix for $170.
That's awesome, man.
And I really was looking forward to having a blender that wasn't a piece of junk like the one I currently have. Actually, it's my buddies who moved out and he never took it. So I just
got to get a NutriBullet, man.
You have to get no.
Okay, just kidding.
No,
Don't get a NutriBullet.
No, get the best blender in the market is Vitamix. They don't even sponsor our show, and I'll give them a nice shout out.
And I'll
Vitamix sponsor our show, but I don't get it till Monday, so that's when I'll actually I'll jump into using the Vitamix. So. Speaking of products you probably see all over social media, Manscaped, the company that essentially is for men and trimming themselves up from head to toe, specifying on the region right in the groin area. That's nice. The reason why we are bringing that up. The second most popular NFL insider behind Adam Schefter, and he'll never come close to Shefty. Is Ian Rapapport of NFL Network, and he's suspended for 2 weeks because he posted a video supporting manscaping, and NFL Network did not appreciate that and suspended him for 2 weeks.
I got nothing to add. That's the story.
He posted on his Twitter after the fact. He said, "Recently I posted something to my social channels without clearance from NFL Network, which went against its guidelines. As a result, I will be off air until October 22nd. I respect and understand the decision made by the network and am deeply sorry for my mistake." So NFL Network jumped in here, and they got so upset because of a manscaping tool. Would you, if you were in the head of NFL Network, I don't know if that's Goodell or if someone else at NFL Network makes that decision, but do you have a problem with that?
No, but I'm sure there's something in some contract somewhere. I mean, he probably should have known better. I mean, he probably did know better at the time. Maybe it just slipped his mind. Maybe he was just having a moment of defiance and really wanted to strut his stuff. But I don't know. I really don't think
he should strut his stuff because if he uses manscaping, I mean, then maybe.
Then he's got stuff to strut.
It's literally called the lawnmower.
I know. I know.
If you're a guy, you've seen these ads on social media.
100%.
I mean, they are
Facebook
literally
just
everywhere.
Shoves them down your throat.
And then Instagram, all of the influencers are look at this, use this, and then you're like, what is that? And then you see Ian Rapapport tweet about it, and you're like, okay, maybe that actually is a big deal. But would Adam Schefter get suspended for this? I feel like no.
Man.
ESPN doesn't suspend anybody for anything.
Hey, they suspended Woj.
That's right.
Let's not.
That's true. And he said F you to a sitting U.S. senator. And he got
It was kind of a boss move.
And he got suspended for what, 3 weeks?
Yeah, it was 2 or 3 weeks.
It was up until the bubble had already started, and they don't even have their head NBA insider down there.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really interesting. I think it's also pretty funny because the thought of Ian Rapapport supporting and using that is pretty hysterical to me, because you look at these guys who are always in suits and ties and they're all buttoned up, and then all of a sudden they're supporting an upcoming upstart company that is dealt for trimming up your
nether
your groin area. So that was fun stuff, and that's a good tie into the rest of our NFL stuff. What a week. or weekend, and I guess Thursday.
Wow,
But
yeah,
there were a lot of things that happened.
There's a lot that's
I see you have a
gone
nice
on.
little list here. What are we talking about?
Well, okay, I think we should start with the biggest thing, which was really awful to see, really unfortunate. I'm curious to hear what your reaction was, but not exaggerating, no hyperbole, I actually shed a tear. One singular tear came out of my eye watching the reactions of the players, the coaches, Jason Garrett, Mike McCarthy, all the fans that were actually in Dallas when Dak, what did he do? He dislocated his foot. I don't even know what the official
compound
injury.
fracture and dislocation of his ankle. By the way, I just looked up the video for Dak's injury, and here's a manscaping ad with Gronk. You
Man.
can't tell me that I'm
They
not
got our
being
mics
listened to.
tapped hard.
They're interested in us. They want to sponsor us. Manscaped wants to sponsor us. But yeah, it was a compound fracture and a dislocation that he had surgery for right away.
And Tony Romo had an all-time call, kind of cutting into the severity of the moment and how heavy it was with, well, Jim, you just got to hope it's a cramp, and his foot is pointing the wrong direction while he's holding his calf.
To be fair to Tony, the first glance you couldn't quite tell what it was, and
particular shot, it was a little more difficult to tell that yes, his foot was no longer attached to the bottom of his leg.
It was unfortunate, Sam. I don't know if you can get the video. I just emailed you the link because I think people want to see that. I want to see it again. I like watching injuries. Is that weird?
No, it's kind of like pimple popping or like earwax removal.
My dad
kind of
hates watching.
satisfaction.
My dad hates watching gruesome injury videos.
Dad sounds like a putz. Yeah. Shout out, Mr. Reed.
Yeah. Don't worry, he doesn't watch the show anyway.
I wouldn't either.
No, he does. I think sometimes. We'll see. We'll see if he'll definitely point it out if he watched it. He'll be like that Andrew kid.
I know.
We'll get some death threats for the show.
Can't wait. Yes. Then we'll know we're really making.
Then we'll know that we're making a difference. No, that was pretty bad. I was sitting at my parents' house watching it, and then he goes down, and to be fair to Romo, the way he was sitting almost looked like he was holding his calf, like things were just tightening up.
Yeah.
And then the camera angle shifted to the front, and his ankle's sitting like if this is how they're supposed to sit, his ankle was like that, and it's like, you can't do that. That's not how that's supposed to look. And obviously, that's a big blow to the Cowboys. Big blow to Dak. He was on the franchise tag, which means he's only playing for this year. That's the only contract he has. He was making $31.7 million, I want to say. And next year, I think it's going to be like $37 million. And so here is the video actually for everybody to watch if you haven't seen it. It's pretty gruesome, so I will give you a little bit of a warning. But it's also very interesting, unfortunately, because I do, again, like I said, I do like to watch injury videos. But here we go. So he scrambles out here, breaks a tackle. Logan Ryan tackles him. Doesn't look too bad from there. Oh, there it goes.
Yeah, you can see it. Boom.
Oh,
and he tossed it into the turf.
So, Romo right here was like, it could be a cramp. This is when Romo was like, could be a cramp. And it does kind of look like he's holding his calf. And then you kind of see, oh, God.
Yeah.
That's when you know it's not good. One really cool thing, though, was that, so Mike McCarthy's walking out right now. Was seeing Jason Garrett come over, the former Cowboys head coach. Long time.
That was the best PR publicity that Jason Garrett's had in 10 years.
Oh, it gets wicked here. So don't watch if you don't want to see it, but it's his right ankle. Oh, you just see it. And here it goes, flippity-floppity.
It's kind of like a car crash. It's like you can't look away.
No,
kind of thing. You want to watch, but you also don't want to watch.
Also, look at the trainer. My favorite part about that video was Jason Garrett walking over and consoling his quarterback. I mean, he molded Dak to what he is today. My second favorite part was the Cowboys. Partially, it was the Cowboys trainer, and I told my dad this too when I was watching it. I don't like injuries. I would hope the Cowboys get a bunch of minor injuries because my favorite thing is the Cowboys trainer has a cowboy hat. And he sprints out on the field. He's in a cowboy hat. And it's like, what is more Dallas than that? Their trainer is a cowboy.
Also, Tristan Hill tore his ACL.
I did, yeah.
You did?
Such a shame.
I know.
What, tough. Karma for you. The guy who rolled up on Chris Carson, we talked about a couple weeks ago. He tore his ACL.
Yes, he did.
And that's what happens when you. And I thought I was gonna watch the video. It was non-contact, but I thought that someone took him out.
Yeah.
Which would have been bad, but I also that is what happens. But
that Andy Dalton signing that was kind of maligned just because of how close it was, obviously within the Cowboys organization. All the talk in the offseason was trying to get the contract for Dak, get that extension worked out and everything. and then they signed a backup quarterback, and then all the media is like, oh my God, what are you doing? Take care of Dak. Well, in hindsight, at the time, actually, it was a good move, whether you wanted to admit that or not, just because you want the conversation and the narrative to be focused on Dak in that negotiation. But hey, guess what? That was a sick move. And in the NFC East, you can't obviously. There are two teams that are not going to win the NFC East, and that's the Washington football team and that's the New York Giants. As winnable as that division is, I think I feel very safe and confident in saying that those teams will not win it. It's going to be the Eagles. It's going to be the Cowboys. Which one? I don't know. I would be really stoked if Andy Dalton came back and lit it up. Best weapons he's had since, 2015.
Healthy AJ Green.
Yeah.
Like a decade ago.
Who's a shell of himself now, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I think the Cowboys are still going to be competitive. They were talking about the fact that they might actually get down to their roots and run it more with Zeke, which they should have done in the first place, without letting the ball continuously just go back into the opposing
Yeah, their line
hands.
is not what it used to be.
They do have a lot of injuries and people have left, but like I was talking with somebody about I was talking about Le'Veon Bell, which we'll get to in a second. People are like, well, he'll get off the Jets and he'll be a superstar once he leaves the Jets. But it's like good running backs make bad offensive lines look good. Like even though you look at, and I had multiple examples of that because it is true. There are so many times where there are bad situations like Mixon. Look at Joe Mixon. Now he's starting off slow. He started off slow last year, but he ended up being top 5 running back by the time the season ended. And then you look at Gurley before McVay got there. He was a stud when he got drafted. There's plenty of examples of guys doing well in bad situations. You look at Marshawn Lynch. Now they had a decent run blocking line, but overall from left to right, their offensive line was full of scrubs outside of Unger and Okung on the
Also, if we didn't have a running back that led the league all the time in yards after contact and breaking tackles, it would not have looked as good from a totality
not at all.
For the Seahawks in their running game. But other stuff, Dan Quinn and Thomas Dimitroff are out in Atlanta.
A lot of people are talking about Dan Quinn coming back to Seattle, and like Pete Carroll was even asked about it, and he said, I've been in his situation. I've been fired from a team, and my thoughts are with Dan and the rest of his family. And I don't see him making a reunion as a defensive coordinator for the Seahawks during the season. People are calling for Ken Norton Jr. to be fired during the season. That's just not going to happen. Yep. Pete Carroll doesn't work like that, first off, and it also would just be bad. They're 5-0. Why, that would be a horrendous move for the morale. The linebackers love him. I think the defense loves Ken Norton Jr. Why would you not? He looks like a fun guy to play for.
Sure.
But Dan Quinn getting fired should have happened a long time ago, unfortunately.
Well, okay, and another thing about Dan Quinn and Dimitroff both being fired, neither of those guys are people that you wouldn't want in your organization. Like, I think they're both going to get jobs again.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
The situation, how much of it being their responsibility, how much of it was just truly unfortunate break after unfortunate break after unfortunate break. I mean, their defense has been riddled with injuries for what seems like basically every season post that 2016 Super Bowl appearance. It's just like they need a new face. They need a new regime. They just need a
little bit of a refresh.
Breath of fresh air there. They're not even committing to Matt Ryan as their tentative to long-term solution at quarterback. Who knows if they end up finishing this season with the worst? Who knows? Trevor Lawrence may become an Atlanta Falcon.
If they continue
that would
to play
be
like
a little
this,
bit of a plot twist. I don't think most people would have pegged him landing in
That'd
Atlanta.
Awesome. That actually would be pretty sweet.
But I think it's crazy to me. I think this is the first time that in the NFL that within 5 weeks 2 head coaches have already been fired. And neither of those 2 were Adam Gase. And so I look at you,
You're
New
still
York
on this,
Jets.
yeah.
Why the hell does Gase have a job? Figure it out. Fire him. My God. That's all I got.
That's all you got for
That's
the Gase
all I
situation.
need.
Yeah, it's probably true, but I still believe that the reason why is because they're tanking. And they don't.
No, I know. And there are expectations that come with Atlanta and come with Houston because they have very competent quarterbacks. They have at least a number of exciting pieces on both sides of the ball.
Yep.
And the expectations have a lot to do with the reason behind O'Brien and Quinn being fired. I understand that. But do you want to talk about how we did on picks last week?
No.
Yeah,
we'll
we
just
did
move on to the next.
terribly. We did terribly.
That was a
those
weird
first
week.
4 games that we called, we got all of those wrong.
That was a weird week because a lot of those games in my mind seemed like shoo-ins. I even mentioned that the first 10 games I think that we picked were all the same.
Yeah, they were.
And then they backfired a lot.
And I almost got that Monday night if Badgley didn't miss that kick. If you didn't doink it, I would have been 9-5.
That was
However,
only
I
a
ended.
50-yard field goal. He should have made that.
I know. I ended at 8-6. You ended at 7-7. So naturally, after 5 weeks, we are both tied with a record of 48-27.
This is a sham.
Yeah,
This whole thing's a sham.
it's really bad.
Well, we're going to make some better picks this week, specifically from me. That is why I'm wearing a football jersey this week, is to make up for some of these bad picks. Go Shock. We have the Texans at the Titans.
Boy, it's hard not to pick the Titans after
look
their
good.
Tuesday night showing.
Oh,
They're
man.
just shellacking of the Buffalo Bills, which
Yeah.
kind of broke my heart.
That was a big surprise.
But I thought it was cool because obviously everybody in the media was hating on the Titans just because, from the outside, it's like, oh my God, you guys aren't taking the virus seriously. You guys are slacking on your protocol and your adherence to said protocol. And they came out and they're like, yeah, we heard all that chatter and up yours. We're going to play football and we're going to play football well. And Ryan Tannehill has not regressed at all. And he's
weird.
keeping
I'm
up
shocked.
his success from last year. And give me the Titans.
Yeah, I also have the Titans, and the Texans, even though they won it for Romeo Crennel last week, aren't going to do the same this week. I also have the Titans. Bengals at the Colts. Give me the Colts.
Yeah, give me the Colts.
Burrow had a bad week last week.
He did, dude. I
His
feel
line
bad
is
for him.
so
I
bad.
honestly think he's gonna die. Like
might.
he's already got CTE just from playing
Yeah.
5 weeks in the NFL. No, I seriously feel so bad for him. He gets hit harder, more consistently than any other quarterback.
They need to get
at
the
least
ball.
this year.
They need to get the ball out of his hands quicker, and they have the guys to do it. They have Boyd, who's their slot guy, and they have Mixon coming out of the backfield, who's proven that he can be a 3-down back. So that's always been surprising. And AJ Green hasn't been the vertical threat.
He's got to
that he
retire.
has been,
He's
so.
got to go somewhere else. He doesn't look like he wants to be out on the field.
I don't think he wants to be in Cleveland. In
Cincinnati.
in
Why would you be? That
Yeah.
franchise, there's a lot of stuff behind the scenes going on there that is not great, and there's a reason why Joe Burrow ended up in Cincinnati with a number 1 overall pick.
Yep. Falcons at the Vikings.
Give me the Vikings. They looked good last week. They should have won that game.
They are extremely desperate. Like, they need a win. They needed a win the last 2 weeks, and they can't find them.
They need a win like Mike Zimmer needs surgery on his eye.
Hey,
What?
not very nice.
Okay.
So I can talk bad about LeBron being an actual douche, but you can just make fun of Mike Zimmer.
You said that death threats are warranted,
I
deserved.
prove it. We
I have the receipts.
I don't think I made a pick. I think I'm going to be the Vikings as well.
Okay.
Even though I think that Atlanta team will be a little fired up, just based off of the changes, but we'll see. Then we have the Broncos at the Patriots with Cam back.
Yeah, Patriots. Even if Cam wasn't playing, I think I would still go with the Patriots.
Drew Lock's practicing.
Yeah, I know. You said that for the second straight week. Yeah, I know. Crazy.
That'll be fun.
Yeah,
That'll
no,
be something. But
give me New England.
yeah, definitely the Patriots. In the game of the week, we have the Washington football team at the Giants.
I'm surprised this actually wasn't in the Sunday night slate. I'm
Yeah,
surprised
really.
that we didn't get that classic NFC East matchup. But I'm actually going to go with the football team. Yeah, says it right there.
You believe in Kyle Allen?
I do. Actually, when I made the pick, I thought Alex Smith was getting the start, so I did reconsider a little bit after I saw that Kyle Allen was going to resume the starting role, which is kind of depressing because after I got over the initial stress and
Yeah.
anxiety of watching Alex Smith wear Aaron Donald like a backpack, I was like, hey, this is cool. He
Literally,
threw for
though,
the 36 yards? That's insane.
I know it's football. Like, I know you go 100% on every play, but like, I didn't love that from Aaron Donald. Like,
I didn't either. I was like, dude,
Like, you know who this is.
seriously,
Like, you know
come
who this
on.
is.
Don't put all 200 and whatever of your pounds on his back. Like, yeah, I
was so
agree with
worried
that.
when I
That
saw
was
that. I'm like, oh,
that was
God.
unnecessary.
Especially in this day and age, like they blow quarterbacks
Whistles all
dead
the time in the grasp.
consistently.
In the
Yeah.
grasp, they
yeah.
say.
So I was like, okay, dude, like for sure.
But no, but give me the football team.
That's a bad pick, but I'm gonna pick the
Thank you.
Giants. Not
Okay.
not that the Giants are much better.
Yeah.
But I too
Why don't
will
you
pick
sit
the
over there on
Giants.
your moral high horse? Yeah, picking the Giants.
Yep, I am. Yep, big Daniel Jones believer. We have Baltimore at Philadelphia. God, Philadelphia is just getting
Tough, man. You almost wonder. I mean, you look at their schedule coming up and their record and what it is already. Who knows if Doug Peterson's going to make it through the year? I wouldn't take it off the table. I would be surprised if he got fired. But, man, this is not what you want if you're a Philadelphia Eagles fan. Give me the Ravens.
Yeah, definitely the Ravens on that one. Browns at the Steelers, which
Might be the
is gonna
best
a
matchup of
really,
the week,
really
actually.
Good game. It should be in theory.
So I'm going to go with the Steelers just because if it's close in the fourth quarter, I think that Baker hasn't really proved that he's been able to have any success when the run game, he can't rely on it. If it's the fourth quarter, if he needs to make a drive or whatever, he's got to make throws, and they're not just running it 10 plays in a drive. I haven't seen that yet from him, so I would lean Steelers, and it's going to be by far the best defense that they've faced. Even though they did well against a solid Colts defense last week, the Steelers, I think, are another breed.
They are, and they have a better offense than the Colts do. Big Ben's better than Phillip Rivers. I also am going to pick the Steelers. I'm not a believer in the Browns yet. I know a lot of the national media are making this a big deal. Like, this is the first time the Browns have been 4-1 since, like, the 90s or something ridiculous, or like early 2000s. But I just don't believe in Baker yet. Like, I mean, he's still only throwing for like, what, 220?
Yeah.
180 to 220 a game. So,
but it's all he's needed to throw for.
It is, but that's part of the problem is, like, I'm not a believer in a team that only relies on the run. Their defense isn't even that special either. They have Myles Garrett. And that's
okay, so I don't know if you know a 2013 Super Bowl winning team that did exactly that, but...
Yeah. No, Russell Wilson's a better quarterback, though, than Baker Mayfield.
Okay,
Baker
sure,
Mayfield
but
makes
he wasn't
mistakes.
okay, fine.
And, right?
Yes.
And the defense is better for the Seahawks.
Well, of course.
Exactly.
Okay, but I'm just saying we did not pass the ball with any sort of success.
Well,
we
were
big plays.
efficient. We were efficient.
Sure.
We weren't consistently throwing for 300 yards, but we were consistently throwing for 220 and 2 touchdowns and no picks.
Okay, fine.
Baker's that's another guy I don't really like. But then we have the Bears at Carolina.
I'm getting a little frisky. I'm going with the Panthers.
Perfect. I'm going to go with the Bears and support my buddy AJ.
Shout out AJ.
Who he was really upset a few weeks ago when I said I gave him a shout out and I called him my buddy. And so he said he watched the entire show and he's like, well, that was stupid. I was like, okay, fair enough.
Please don't associate with me.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it was. But I am a little bit of a believer in the Bears in the sense that they're finding ways to win when they shouldn't. And I think that's a very important quality for a team that isn't great like the Bears.
Their defense is playing a lot better than it did last year. Last year, they had a fall off, obviously, after an incredible 2018 season. Like, things are going to come back down to orbit. Yeah. Naturally, you're not going to be able to replicate that like large of a turnover margin. But they look like what we saw them look like in 2018.
They are who we thought they are.
Nice.
Then another fantastic game, Lions at the Jags.
Yeah. Oh, man. Yes. Actually, this was the Sunday night matchup that I
was hoping for.
Yeah. Give me the Lions.
There's only 2 1:00 games this week. That
I know.
Sucks.
It's because of all the goddamn schedule changes because the NFL has not allotted extra buys or extra weeks. They need to add extra weeks onto the end of the season so that
Goodell did say there is flexibility there.
Okay, well, I wonder if they're just waiting for all hell to really break loose.
I think so. I think they have some stuff in their back pocket.
I guess
the season isn't going anywhere.
I
am going to pick the Minshew Mania team. I'm going to go with the Jags.
All right.
We'll see what happens. I do like some Minshew. 10 a.m. on Fox. Chances are we'll actually probably get that game. They've been doing that to the Spokane area. They've been giving us the Jags games because of Minshew. Then we have another great game. Wow. We have the Jets at the Dolphins.
Fins up.
Yeah, the Jets are so bad, and Darnold's probably not going to play, which is going to make them.
It was so cool watching the Dolphins kick the crap out of San Francisco
it was awesome.
last week. That was incredible.
That was almost as satisfying as watching the Seahawks win. Like, I love watching the Niners just get it taken to them.
I mean, I like it when Fitzmagic is being magical.
He was balling out.
Bombing.
Oh, he was
Preston
just
Williams, the
slinging
little Devontae Parker. Yeah, no, it was awesome.
And the Niners have a decent defense. I know they have some injuries, but like their defense is still probably in the top half of the NFL.
That team is so hungover.
They're really struggling
so
right
hungover.
now, and it's awesome. Then the Packers at the Buccaneers, which is a sweet game.
Yeah, I wish they could have flexed this. I know they don't flex things early on in the season. They wait till like the last 5 weeks of Sunday night matchups. But I kind of wish this would have been the Sunday night football game. Actually, not saying that facetiously, like the Lions and the Jags. But I want to go with the Packers. I don't know if Tampa Bay's offense is going to be able to keep up with the Packers. Tom Brady did not have a great showing and had an Alzheimer's moment on Thursday night for all of America to see.
Fourth down?
And good memes came from it.
Really good
game
memes,
has been strong, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But, yeah, give me the Packers.
Yeah, Brady-led teams don't lose twice in a row.
Ooh.
I'm going to pick the Buccaneers. Also because that means the Packers have to travel to Tampa, which is always a tough place to play, especially if it's hot. So we'll see what the weather is. In sense of like the humidity and the weather. Same thing with Miami.
Sure.
Miami's not an easy place to play when it's
Yeah.
humid like that.
Rodgers doesn't care.
No, he'll care. His fingers will be too slippery and wet when it's so humid.
Nice.
Then the Sunday night game, which is a decent Sunday night game, not as good as it should be.
Well, it was going into the season, not so much now.
Not so much now, just based off of the fact that the Niners have been trash. Rams at the Niners, and this is a big game for the Niners. If they don't win this, it's really putting a massive question mark on their playoff chances.
Yeah, and I don't expect them to win it. I'm going to go with the Rams.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Rams, too. The Niners, I mean, they had to bench their starting quarterback. Jimmy G went 7 for 17 for 77 yards and two interceptions.
He's out there
in the
stringing
first half.
G's.
And a lot of it too is probably that high ankle sprain. They talk about when quarterbacks come back from high ankle sprains, they like to sail the ball, and he was sailing the ball all over.
You
the
could
place.
totally tell he was not. He couldn't plan. His platform of which he was throwing off of was not
good.
what you want.
Not what you want to see from a starting quarterback. So yeah, I'm also going to pick the Rams. For Monday, we have a nice doubleheader again. Kansas City at Buffalo, which should be a pretty good game.
Yeah, I think so. Man, the Bills, I was not expecting that kind of showing or lack of showing against the Titans.
Yeah, I didn't see
that
the
was
game.
a little discouraging.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go with the Chiefs. I think they're going to rebound. I think Mahomes is kind of pissed at himself for having an off week last week and losing to a team that plays in Las Vegas, which is not great for morale in general. I'm going to say the Chiefs bounce back. I do think it'll be more competitive of a showing from Buffalo than what they showed on Tuesday night.
Should be.
But, hopefully it'll be a good game, but I'm going to go with Kansas City.
Yeah, I also am as well. I think – did you see the stat that Mahomes last week, he ran for over 1,000 yards, taking into account his rushing yards, but also his moving around in the pocket and behind the line of scrimmage. He ran for over 1,000 yards, which is just wild to me. That offensive line is struggling. They need to get – and I don't know why they haven't. They need to get Clyde Edwards-Helaire more involved in the passing game.
Yeah, you thought it was a given, especially after week one, but it
And after
really
they drafted
hasn't been
him in the first round.
Well, of course, yeah. And then the week one showing against the Texans, and it was like, oh, yeah, this is it.
He's going to be an absolute stud, and they just haven't utilized him, I think, to his strongest skill sets. So that's a surprise. That's a surprise to me. But I'm also going to pick the Chiefs. That offense, they've had a long time to prepare for this game, especially comparatively to Buffalo. And then to round out the week, we have, which also would have been a decent game before this season as well. Arizona at the Cowboys.
Man,
This actually becomes a really
this
good
is
game.
intriguing. Yeah, I want to go just because I want redheaded representation and
They go
success
Red
in the
Rocket.
NFL. Red Rifle. I'm going to go with Cowboys and Andy Dalton.
Yeah, I think Kyler
Do I feel
Murray-
good about it? No.
No, I can see. Yeah, that's fair. I think Kyler Murray's going to have an awesome game against this
Probably.
putrid Dallas defense.
Yeah, Hopkins is going to tear him up.
Oh, and I can't wait because I needed that help for my fantasy team. So I too am, or I not. I'm going to pick the Cardinals instead of the Cowboys for that matchup. That will end week 6. And Seahawks are on a bye until
Are
next.
you picking the Seahawks this week?
Yeah, I'll pick the Seahawks. I did say I was going to pick them every week.
I don't know. I think the bye is going to get the best
I'm
of
gonna
them.
I'm gonna pick them to win the bye.
Okay.
No injuries this week.
I'm going to go with the bye. BYE.
Bad pick. So we'll speaking of the Seahawks, they had an awesome game on Sunday night. If you missed it, that's on you. And I don't know why you would have. 'cause
You
that
actually
game was
probably would have
sweet.
saved a couple years on your lifespan, though. I lost 3,
Or-
I think.
Well, or you got a good workout in. Depends if you're a glass half full kind of guy. You got a good workout in.
No, I was at B-Dubs, which was a mistake. I forgot how much I hate watching, especially Seahawk games in public.
It's the worst.
People are stupid. People yell. People
I hate
don't.
it.
It's so easy to identify a fan that has absolutely no idea what they're talking about, what's going on, and they cheer at the wrong times or it's abysmal. It's depressing. I don't like being around it, and that was a mistake. However, I wanted to watch the finals simultaneously, and then that ended up being a blowout. So, again, just a bad move on my part all around.
worthless.
But,
Just a worthless
yeah, that
time.
game, my God, that was stressful.
Yeah, it was probably it was time for the Seahawks offense to come down to earth a little bit, and they did in the first half. They couldn't do anything. I think their play calling was below average from
Those
what it has
first
been the
2
rest of the
sacks that
season.
Russell took, too, those were on him. The protection was fine, and he did not move on either of those, and those were really drive killers in the first half. Obviously, you take the good with the bad with him in the pocket movement and the mobility and everything, but like a lot of this, not a lot, but a good amount of sacks that he takes are on him.
He does take a lot of sacks. Same with Mahomes, actually. It was the same exact thing. They talked about Mahomes taking too many sacks because he likes to float in the pocket, and that's tough for offensive line. Same with Seahawks. It's tough for offensive linemen to block for a guy who doesn't sit in the pocket, because usually you have that nice designed pocket, or you're shifting right or shifting left, and Russ is going to move left, right, middle, back, like wherever he wants. And same with Mahomes, they're going to float around. And so, no, for sure, I think some of the problem too, for whatever reason, actually I know why, their wide receivers weren't getting open because of what the Seahawks have wanted to do this year is attack the field vertically. And the Vikings play in this very stiff, too deep safety look that causes teams to play underneath, and the Seahawks just weren't doing that. And I don't know why they weren't calling plays. They weren't calling cover 2 beaters, and I don't know why. And I think some of that has to do with the fact that I think they were surprised to see that look, and I don't know why, because that's kind of a cornerstone of Zimmer's defense is, beat us short, and run the ball against us, and then we'll make adjustments. And the Seahawks couldn't really run the ball either there for a while. They opened up the second half with 3 straight runs and went to 4th and 1, and they had a punt. But after that drive, the Seahawks defense, once again, as they have historically, have kind of got them going. You had KJ Wright with the one-handed interception.
Boy, that made up for like the 3 that he dropped last week in Miami. But that was awesome. That was
sweet, and he has those long arms. Still haven't figured out what that cuff is on his arm yet. But he, again, like I said, KJ Wright's one of my favorite players. But I think Russell Wilson just eludes this confidence. Like, he just oozes this confidence. And did you see what he said on that before that final drive?
Yeah, okay, actually, so I have a little bit of a gripe with that because, of course, social media takes that clip in the audio of him saying, like, they already know what's coming.
Yeah.
Let's go win this game. And they ended up winning the game, so then people take that and they're like, oh, he called game. And it's like, okay, even in the ones that we lose, but we're put in this position, he still says it. Like, let's go week 17 last year against the 49ers. I guarantee you he said the same damn thing. He says it every time. So, yes, it worked out, and that's awesome. But don't act like he called game. He says that regardless of what the result ends up being. So that's just another example of people being stupid.
I think my favorite thing, though, is whenever new guys come into the field, you talk about, as in the Seahawks, you talk about Dwayne Brown, you talk about Clowney, you talk about Jamal Adams. A lot of these big-name players come into Seattle, and they're like, I love it here. Like, this is so awesome, and I never think we're going to lose a game because Russell Wilson is that confident. And, like, that's one of the coolest things. The one thing I saw, to kind of go back to that Buccaneers game against the Bears with Brady, the Buccaneers had a terrible offensive drive where they had, like, 4 offensive line penalties and nothing was going right. And then
awful.
Brady comes off the field, and he is screaming at his guys. Now, Brady's the only quarterback in the league that can do that, in my opinion, because of what he's done. But there's a lot of quarterbacks out there that do that, and they shouldn't do that. And have you ever once seen Russell Wilson like have an upset look on his face or yell at a guy or complain about his guys doing something? Never. Like, that's one thing to me that's like shocking and that I really appreciate because a guy's not meaning to false start. Like, it's not.
No, it's impressive, especially the situations that he's been subjected to. I mean, an example to a bigger issue for Seattle over the past 8 seasons or 9 seasons with Russ is, okay, so with this game-winning drive, he passed Matthew Stafford for the most since 2012 with 30. Okay, so why is Matthew Stafford in positions to win games in last-minute drives or fourth-quarter comebacks or what have you? Because the Lions are incompetent, and they put Matthew Stafford in that offense in positions, and they're losing a lot. Okay, so the fact that Russell Wilson just passed Matthew Stafford, who plays for the Lions, is indicative of him being put in awful situations and Pete Carroll just refusing to play a competent first half of football or a first quarter, second quarter, even third quarter. And I don't know. You and I were texting about it, but he always talks about how you can't win a game in the first, you can't win a game in the second or third, you win a game in the fourth. And it's like, okay, yes, I understand the ultimate sentiment of what you're saying. However, you can put yourself in a position early on in a game to ensure that you do win the game in the fourth quarter when the game is won. Yeah. And it's just frustrating. They've obviously been a lot better this year, especially on the offensive end of things. Yeah. And just going for it early and passing on early downs and passing the ball more frequently. So it's been a nice change. However, Sunday night, it was a little too reminiscent of 2016, 17, 15, throw any year out there.
Yeah, for a while. And I agree with that. I think, Pete even talked about it. He's like, oh, I love when games go down to the wire. Just, It really brings the guys together. And that part I actually do kind of agree with because, like, he did mention first, he was like, it's just so darn exciting. Like, I love when this happens. And I was like, okay, Pete. But then he was like, it brings the guys closer. It really builds up our confidence. It makes, you know, us realize that we can do it in whatever situation that is presented to us. And I do agree with that. So that part's awesome for sure. But no, I think it was a better showing from the secondary in this game. And did that mean that they let the running game go off a little bit? I don't know if those two things correlate or not.
Okay, also, so when Dalvin Cook was gashing us the entire game, I was like, of course, and I've been talking ish about Dalvin Cook all offseason just because he's fragile and because he can never stay on the field, and I think he's a little bit overrated despite his production. I mean, I understand the merit there, and there is merit, and he is a good running back. He's not who I would choose. He's not my type of running back. Yeah. But anyway, he's gashing us, and I'm like, God, aren't you supposed to have lost an ACL by now?
Yeah,
and then he went out with a groin injury, and I was like,
that's the Dalvin Cook I remember.
That's the Dalvin Cook. I mean, one of my fantasy teams named is Dalvin's cooked knees. So
that's a good one.
Wasn't exactly his knee, but it was his groin. He also went out against Seattle last year in the Monday Night Football game. So I appreciate your timely injury, Dalvin. Thank you.
And
for all of that.
What's crazy is, though, is Madison came in and played pretty darn well, because I saw Vikings fans that were like, well, if Dalvin Cook was still playing, it's like Madison ran for like 5.5, 6 yards a carry. Like, I mean, it was like that doesn't matter to me. You know, you guys had a solid running game with or without Dalvin Cook, and you were going.
Thank God he was in there on that 4th and inches, though, because I think Dalvin would have bounced that outside, and that would have been a game clincher.
And awesome play by Cody Barton, who was actually struggling that game because they were running that outside zone to the left consistently. And Bobby, you know, because Barton's on the weak side, and Bobby would come and break down, and he would hit that fullback. But then Cody Barton was always so slow to come around the outside of that and break up the play, and he was always behind it. And they ran that play consistently. I mean, it was that it's kind of like that thing in Madden where you find a play that works and you run it every single time. Yeah. And they kept doing that. And so big props to Cody Barton to save the game, because he definitely did. And Bobby came through to clean it up because Madison could have reached that ball over, and he's the one who prevented that. So awesome first time the Seahawks have been 5-0 in franchise history, moving to the bye. Decently healthy. Jamal Adams should get another 2 weeks here to heal up.
It'll be good to get Jordan Brooks back too to get him on the field, get his development going. Exactly.
Yeah, more speed will be really nice. We'll see if the Seahawks, Damon Harrison should also be on the roster come that week 6 matchup or week 7 matchup at that point. So that'll be nice. So the Seahawks are going into the bye pretty healthy. Russell Wilson's MVP campaign also took a big step forward with that 94-yard drive, the third longest game-winning touchdown drive in the NFL since, what did they say? I think ever? They may have said ever, because Brian Greasy, who is now in the Monday Night Football booth, did it back in like 2004, and then Jameis did it 2 years ago. Against the Saints. He went like 97 yards, I think. I think Jameis had like the longest one ever. So
let Jameis cook.
Put him. Heck, that would be interesting to see down there in New Orleans, actually.
Should we do Jabroni?
I think so. I will go first this week. I have a video that you've definitely seen if you're an NFL fan, that has been going around social media. I didn't watch the game, like I said, against the Titans and the Bills, but we had this pretty massive play here by a very massive human that, like I said, I got probably 8 notifications for that I didn't really need, because every single one, like ESPN and Bleacher Report, and they all were just like, hey, watch this play. And I'm like, okay, fine. And I did. And then this is what it was. I guess it was some big, awesome play.
Like Jonnu Smith as the tight ends. Every team would look to exploit that. Little quarterback voice from Ryan Tannehill. He almost got him to jump. Yes, he did. He gives it to Henry. Henry trying to get to the outside. Shoves the defender, Josh Norman, to his backside.
So my big gripe with that video, it was a 3-yard gain that got called back for offsetting penalties. So that play never even happened. That wasn't an actual play, Because one thing that upsets me so much about the age of social media and specifically ESPN, Bleacher Report, all of these different media conglomerates, like they send out a notification like, go watch this stiff arm. And it's like,
Or watch
awesome.
this missed dunk by Ja Morant.
Yeah,
that
like-
happened countless times
And
over
it's
the
like,
regular
it's
season.
like, leave me alone. Like, I don't need to see this play. It's the exact same thing. No one ever remembers Jermaine Kearse's catch in the Super Bowl that got them down to the 1 yard line because of the fact that they lost. And yet people like make this to be an awesome play, and he ran for 3 yards. He ran out of bounds because there's offsetting penalties. And so my jabroni is media companies that continue to shove content down our throat that doesn't even matter, and that is a waste of my time.
Perfect segue to my jabroni that is also about social media. So, of course, the Los Angeles Lakers won their 17th title. So I'm going to read this out loud. I'm curious if you can make sense of this. So, whether they are 2 or 2 billion, the greatest their numbers could ever become is to truly become 1. What the hell
Whether they
does that even mean?
2 billion.
Can you make any sense of that for me?
No.
I
don't know what
I
that
can't either.
means.
I read that like 6 times.
Did you go through the comments at all?
Of course not. No. Why would I do
Well,
that?
I'm wondering if like someone.
No, but anyway, if that's the best stuff that you're putting forward, especially after you guys win a championship, then you might want to take a look at your social media department. But yeah, that was a woof.
Some sports teams' media accounts are trash. Like they tweet some of the most, and I don't want to like. I mean, there are some social media accounts, and these aren't the examples of trash, but to me, it's really funny. You can obviously tell which social media accounts are ran by women, I think.
Oh, okay.
No, but
All
no,
right,
truly.
man.
No, real quick. Because it's the ones that have like 25 emojis attached to it. Like it's like I have never seen a guy do that. Thoughts?
I'm gonna stay away from that.
But
I'm gonna stay away from
I'm
that.
not saying actually, but like it just appears that that's the way that.
No,
it is.
I understand what you're saying.
But
I'm
like
still gonna
in
stay
like
away.
in like 27 exclamation points and like, but it's true because the Seahawks do that all the time, and I've seen and I know because you see them in the videos who the social media account ran by the Seahawks, and it is a woman, and it's like okay, it's not a problem. There's nothing wrong with it. I just think it's funny.
Go ahead and give your closing time.
No, you go. You give yours first.
Well, mine is just mine's just a meme compilation
Perfect.
of Derrick Henry and all the things that he stiff armed. So you can watch that.
Yeah.
I think it's about a 30-second video.
It's a pretty.
To Henry.
It is good.
Henry
Boom.
trying to get to the outside. Gives it to Henry. Henry
Boom.
trying to get to the outside. Gives it to Henry.
Boom. That one, and then the wink and the look in the eyebrows.
Henry. Henry
That was good.
That was great.
I wasn't expecting
Gives it to Henry.
This one is hilarious.
I said this too.
That one's too relatable for anyone who's ever tried to get a big flurry. Yeah.
That one was
There you go.
those were pretty funny. I sent that to a group of friends, and they very much appreciated it.
So that is an example of a good social marketing
This
team.
is an example of the internet actually being on top of
Succeeding,
things.
right.
And the internet truly does stay undefeated one way or another.
Mm-hmm.
And I also have a good example actually now of a social media team doing things right. This is a very good example actually. Is there nothing more just men? Like when you think of the word like men or man, like that's what you see.
That was painful to watch. Like, that was awesome, but that was simultaneously, like, my joints hurt. I think I
don't
just
know
tore
how
my
they do
ACL
it,
watching that.
Because there are guys, if you go back and you watch that, so this was posted across ESPN's social media channels, ESPN, Sports Nation, everything, and I love it. I'm a huge fan of seeing that. There are some guys on there who are, I don't know how they're doing it. I have no idea how they're able to play a sport like that because, like you said, I'm pretty sure I just broke my leg watching that.
Really did.
I think I have brain damage just from watching that because they don't play with pads, they don't play with helmets, and it looks to be a free-for-all. Like, it looks to be NFL straight.
If there's anything you've exhibited over the past, 16, 17, 18 shows, it is brain damage. Yes.
But I've never played that.
Boom, let's end on a shot like that.
That's fine. I'm going to end with the fact that NFL Street is arguably the best sports video game of all time, alongside NFL Blitz. I think both those games were very well done. But that was our show today. A lot of NFL talk. A lot of things coming up here on the locker room sports-wise. The NFL is in full swing, and we'll just kind of keep marching forward through all of this. Right now, we only have – eventually, it's going to be only the NFL because baseball is going to be done. NBA is obviously already done. There's no hockey. There's going to be some soccer talk. Get ready for some soccer talk. Yeah. That will happen. So get ready for that. Andrew was going to get – it's his favorite sport. He's going to play some FIFA. Just a new one came out. So we will see you here again next week. Another live show. Keep tabs on us. We will continue to take questions, any sort of your comments. We did get a few down here this week. No questions, though. Just my cousin, the Giants fan. He's pumped that I picked the Giants.
Tad Tinker, big hauling season, real name.
Big hauling season. Is it really?
That's my friend.
Buddy?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And then our other producer.
Would you sign off? My hand's been waving above my forehead for like 30 seconds now.
All right. We'll see you here again next week. I am Justin Reed alongside Andrew Tenney.
Thanks for watching The Locker Room on Spokane Talks. Check us out on Facebook as well as our other platforms. We want to hear from you. Join the conversation by emailing us at info@SpokaneTalksOnline.com. And for more sports news, opinions, and content, follow Justin and